Some stones should never leave the earth. In 1666, a French merchant named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier descended into the Kolar mine in India, deep into the suffocating darkness, where the air tasted of copper and ancient dust. The workers wouldn't look at him. They whispered prayers to Sita, pressed their foreheads to the ground, and refused to point toward the deeper shafts. But Tavernier wasn't interested in their superstitions. He was hunting for something specific, something that existed only in rumors carried by dying men. A diamond. Not just any diamond. A stone so massive, so impossibly blue, that it seemed to hold the sky itself, trapped within its facets. They called it the Eye of Brahma. It was said to have been stolen from the forehead of a Hindu goddess statue, pried loose by trembling hands in the dead of night, leaving an empty socket that wept in the darkness. The theft was sacrilege. The kind of violation that echoes through time, that carries weight beyond mere crime. When Tavernier finally held the stone, 112 carats of deep blue fire, he felt its coldness seep through his glove. The diamond was beautiful. Hypnotically, impossibly beautiful. But beauty and curse are not opposites. Sometimes they are twins, born from the same dark womb. The workers watched him wrap it in cloth, their faces frozen in expressions that looked less like fear and more like pity. As if they were watching a man willingly swallow poison, mesmerized by its lovely color. Tavernier brought his prize back to France, where it caught the attention of King Louis XIV, the Sun King, who believed himself untouchable by earthly or divine law. The sale made Tavernier wealthy beyond imagination, wealthy enough to retire, to finally rest. But rest never came. Years later, in Russia far from the glittering courts of Europe, Jean-Baptiste Tavernier was torn apart by wild dogs, or so the story goes. His body, what remained of it, was found scattered across frozen ground, as if the animals had been frenzied, driven by something beyond mere hunger. Some say it's a legend. Others say it's the first payment, the opening debt in a ledger written in blood. The diamond passed to Louis XIV, who had it cut down to 67 carats, reshaping its depths, trying to tame its fire. He called it the blue diamond of the crown. He wore it on a ribbon around his neck at ceremonies, felt its weight against his chest like a second heartbeat. The Sun King died of gangrene, his leg rotting from the inside out, the infection spreading through his body like darkness consuming light. His physicians tried everything. Prayer, surgery, cauterization. Nothing stopped the decay. The stone passed to Louis XV, who refused to wear it after courtiers whispered about its history. He was wise. Or afraid. Perhaps they're the same thing. But his grandson, Louis XV, had no such reservations, young, idealistic, certain of his divine right. He gave the diamond to his wife, Marie Antoinette, who wore it like armor against the growing rage of her people. She would hold it up to candlelight in her chambers at Versailles, watching the blue depths swirl and shift. Mesmerized by its beauty, while outside the palace walls, hunger turned to hatred. Did the stone whisper to her? Did it promise protection, immortality, the kind of untouchable glamour that only gods possess? Or did it simply wait, patient as only stone can be, for the blade to fall?
May the festivities continue indefinitely.
Indeed, the night is still young.
Marie Antoinette wore the diamond on the night everything changed. The necklace affair had already destroyed her reputation, a scandal of fraud and forgery, with her name dragged through pamphlets and whispered in every Parisian corner. The people called her Madame d'Afficit. They blamed her for empty bellies, for children crying themselves to sleep with hunger gnawing at their insides. She could not understand it. How could she? Born into Austrian royalty, raised in palaces where scarcity was a theoretical problem, she had known nothing of want. She collected jewels like some collect stamps, casually, without thought to cost or consequence. The blue diamond of the crown became her favorite. Pinned to velvet chokers, sewn into bodices of gowns worth more than a peasant could earn in decades. At balls, nobles remarked how the stone mirrored her eyes, cold, distant, impossibly blue, catching the light as she turned, casting cobalt shadows across marble floors. Inside the palace, beauty was a shield. Outside, darkness was gathering. The whispers began in markets, in the fish stalls where women gutted cod, with hands stained and caroused. They swelled in bread lines, where mothers pressed children close, counting coins that would never suffice. In wine shops, men drank away their rage, only to remember it sharper, more focused. Revolution does not arrive with trumpets. It crawls, it spreads, it infects. By 1789, whispers became shouts. The Bastille fell in July, its stones torn down by the very hands that built it, by the people who suffered beneath it. The royal family fled Versailles under darkness, the king disguised as a valet, the queen clutching a chest of jewels. The blue diamond was inside. She could not leave it, would not. Even as the sound of pursuit echoed, she held it to her ribs as if it contained her own heart. They were caught at Varennes, dragged back to Paris as prisoners, paraded through streets lined with screaming, starving faces. Someone threw a dead cat. Someone else a stone that shattered the carriage window. Marie Antoinette stared ahead, frozen, clutching her chest. In prison, she kept her personal effects. Among them, the diamond. Guards reported she would hold it for hours, turning it in the dim light, watching the blue depths shift and swirl. Did she pray to it? Did she believe it could save her, reverse the inexorable momentum of history? Or did she finally understand what it was? Not treasure, not protection, but a weight, pulling her down into the earth where stolen things belong. On October 16, 1793, she climbed the scaffold, hair white, face aged decades in months. The crowd jeered. The blade fell at 12:15 p.m., a wet, final punctuation. The blue diamond, seized with the crown jewels, was catalogued, stored, and locked in the guard. Mibble, the royal storehouse that had become a graveyard for vanished empires and glittering debris of collapse. But stone has memory. Absence is not disappearance. 3 months later, thieves broke in during the chaos of the revolution. Guards, locks, watchfulness, all bypassed. Diamonds, rubies, emeralds, pearls, everything vanished into the Parisian night. The blue diamond disappeared completely for 20 years. No records. No sightings. No trail of bodies. No whispered warnings. Only absence. But some things are too heavy to remain buried. Some things claw toward the surface, drawn by human greed, by the endless hunger for beauty at any price. The stone waited, patient as only stone can be, waiting for the next hand to reach for it. The next fool, who believed they could possess it without paying the price history had already written in blood. What happened in those 20 missing years? In 1812, the diamond resurfaced, smaller, recut, and its identity obscured, but its color unmistakable. London. A jeweler's shop on a street, where gaslight struggled to penetrate the fog, where the Thames carried the smell of industry, where fortunes were made by men who asked no questions about the origin of their goods. The stone had been transformed. From 67 carats down to 45.5e2, nearly a third of its mass carved away, its shape altered. Its surface repolished until it looked nothing like the blue diamond of the crown. A perfect disguise. Except for the color. That impossible, hypnotic blue, which seemed to shift between sapphire and midnight, that caught the light and held it, drawing people closer without realizing. The jeweler who first handled it, name lost or erased, kept it for only 3 weeks. He hanged himself in his back room. His apprentice found him swaying in the draught from an open window, his face purple, his eyes bulging, his hands scratched raw as if he'd tried to claw the rope loose. The stone passed to another dealer. Then another. Each time, something went wrong. Bankruptcies, sudden illnesses, our children dying in their sleep, our wives fleeing, leaving notes about blue light that followed them, of feeling watched by something inside the stone. But grief is profitable if you're willing to buy low. In 1830, the diamond was purchased by Henry Philip Hope, a banker, collector, and a man whose fortune made him feel beyond ordinary misfortune. His collection already included some of the world's most famous gems. The blue diamond would be his crowning achievement, a legacy bearing his name. He called it the Hope Diamond. For years, the curse seemed broken. Hope lived comfortably. Surrounded by wealth, his collection admired by scholars and nobility. The diamond sat in a velvet-lined case in his study. Shown to select guests after dinner, watching their eyes widen, their hands reach out before remembering propriety. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he would say, and they would nod, unable to look away. Henry Philip Hope died in 1839. Natural causes, physicians said. Old age. Nothing suspicious. But the stone passed to his nephew, and the pattern resumed. Lord Henry Thomas Hope inherited the diamond and family fortune. A quiet, scholarly man, more interested in art than business. He kept the diamond locked away, taking it out only occasionally to marvel at the light moving inside it. His marriage collapsed within a year. His wife, May Yoe, American actress, vivacious spirit, became obsessed with the diamond. She wore it constantly, displayed it at parties, stood in front of mirrors for hours, watching the blue fire in her eyes. Friends noticed the change. Her laughter became brittle. She developed insomnia, pacing halls at night. The diamond clutched in her hand, leaving a cold blue glow. She spoke of voices, whispers beyond hearing. "It wants something," she told her husband one night. "It's waiting for something, and I don't know what." The marriage ended in scandal. May ran off with another man, a relationship ending in disaster, accusations, bankruptcy, and her eventual descent into poverty. She spent her final years telling anyone who would listen about the diamond, about what it did to her. Lord Hope sold the diamond in 1901. He died 4 years later, broke, alone, fortune squandered. The stone passed through several hands quickly. A London dealer went bankrupt within months. A Greek merchant drowned. A Russian prince was assassinated. Each owner believed they could control it. They each believed the curse was superstition, primitive thinking. Each was wrong. By 1910, the diamond crossed the Atlantic, purchased by Pierre Cartier, who never kept it. He recognized it not a treasure, a trap, beautiful, irresistible, utterly malevolent, deadly nonetheless. Cartier sold it to Evelyn Walsh McLean, an American heiress, wealthiest woman in the United States. Someone who believed money could shield her from misfortune. She was about to learn otherwise. How much tragedy can one person endure before they break? Evelyn Walsh McLean wore the curse like a fashion statement. She was born to wealth, married into more wealth, and truly believed money could buy immunity from suffering. Her life was a luxury on display. Mansions in Washington, D.C., and Palm Beach. Servants in abundance. Parties where senators and movie stars mingled. Champagne flowing, while the Hope diamond hung from her neck like a trophy. Pierre Cartier had tried to warn her. Not directly. That would have hurt the sale. But he told her the stories, the history, the pattern of tragedy that followed the stone. He watched her face, waiting for doubt. She laughed. "I'm Irish," she said, touching the diamond on black velvet. "Would eat bad luck for breakfast." Cartier sold it to her for 180,000 in 1911. She wore it that very night to the opera. For years, everything seemed fine. Better than fine. Evelyn became the queen of Washington society, her parties legendary. She wore the diamond everywhere. She even let her children play with it. "It's just a stone," she told friends. "Beautiful, valuable, but cursed." Please. She had the diamond blessed by a priest. It didn't help. 1919, her son Vincent, 9 years old, was struck by a car outside their estate. He died instantly. Inside, his mother sat wearing the diamond, unaware her world had ended. The grief nearly destroyed her. She began wearing the Hope diamond constantly, to bed, in the bath, every waking moment. As if it could protect what remained. As if its weight was a shield. Friends noticed the change. Her laughter became forced. She touched the diamond obsessively. At parties, she stood alone, staring at it. "What are you saying?" someone asked. "Praying," she whispered, "or bargaining." 1924, her husband, Ned, paranoia. Delusions, violent outbursts. He believed the servants were spies, that the diamond watched him. "It follows me," he told doctors. That blue light. They committed him to an institution. He would die there years later, still speaking of the stone. 1946, Evelyn's daughter Evelyn, named after her, died of an overdose at 25. Pills and alcohol. Her note was brief. "I can't stop seeing it." Blue. Evelyn Walsh McLean wore the Hope diamond to her daughter's funeral. Friends were horrified. Maybe she had to. Maybe the stone had fused to her. Or maybe she finally understood. Not that it caused tragedy, but that it fed on it. She began drinking heavily. The parties continued, hollow. Guests found her unconscious, the diamond still on her chest. Servants learned not to touch it. "Mine," she hissed. "They gave it to me." By the 1940s, she was a shell. Her fortune was gone. Her beauty faded. Her family was shattered. She died in 1947 at age 60. Heart failure. The certificate said. Those who knew her understood. She died of grief. The Hope diamond was sold to pay her debts. It passed to Harry Winston, a jeweler who understood it. He never wore it. Never honored it. To him, it was a beautiful trap. In 1958, he donated it to the Smithsonian. He mailed it, $2.44 in postage, wrapped in brown paper, no guards, no ceremony. The mailman lived another 30 healthy years. Maybe casualness is the key. Or maybe the curse requires belief. Or maybe it's simply waiting. Patient as stone. Why would Winston give it away? The Smithsonian received the Hope diamond in a brown paper package. No fanfare. No ceremony. Just a box that arrived on a Tuesday, examined by a confused mail-room worker who nearly discarded it before noticing the insurance form. The gem curator's hands shook when they opened it, not from fear, from recognition, for 45.52 carats of impossibly deep blue. A stone that had passed through kings and thieves, revolutions and deaths, carrying more history than most museums could ever display. They placed it under examination lights. That's when things became strange. Dr. Jeffrey Post, chief gem curator, later described the first examination in unsettling terms. "It doesn't behave like other diamonds," he said. "The way light moves through it, it isn't quite right. Especially the phosphorescence. The Hope diamond glows. Under ultraviolet light, most diamonds fluoresce blue or yellow. But the Hope diamond glows red. A deep red that pulses beneath UV radiation, seeming to come from within the stone itself. When the UV source is removed, the glow continues. Lingering, fading slowly, like a dying heartbeat." The gemologists took measurements, photographs, and spectroscopic analyses. They mapped its structure atom by atom, documented its color, caused by trace amounts of boron, trapped millions of years ago, deep within the Earth's mantle. But science couldn't explain the pattern. The trail of tragedy. The relentless destruction of those who owned it. Coincidence, they said. A confirmation bias. Superstition shaped by narrative. "Diamonds don't carry curses," Dr. Post insisted. "They're carbon. Crystallized carbon. They don't think. They don't will. And yet, the museum staff developed rituals, unspoken rules, gloves only, no prolonged examination, no taking it home. Don't look at it too long before bed. The dreams won't be pleasant." One preparator quit after 3 months. "It's too heavy," she said. "Not physically heavy. Barely 9 grams. Heavy in other ways. Like something pulling you somewhere you don't want to go." The Smithsonian displayed it in a special case. Reinforced glass. Climate control, extreme security. Mounted on a rotating platform, it sent blue fire across the exhibit hall. Millions came to see it. Faces pressed to glass. A breath fogging the surface. The eye ice wide with the same hunger that had driven men into mines centuries earlier. "I wish I could touch it. I wish I could wear it. I wish it were mine." The guards learned to recognize the look. A fixation beyond admiration. They encouraged visitors to move along, to break the spell. Some couldn't. They stood for hours. Returned day after day. Always the same spot. Always the same stone. One woman came daily for 3 years. She never spoke. Never touched the case. She stood exactly 1 hour, lips moving, hands pressed to her chest. "Praying," she said once. "Someone needs to pray for it." She died of a stroke in front of the display on a Wednesday afternoon. Security footage showed her stiffen, reach out, not to touch, but to ward something off, then collapse. The museum never publicized it. Bad for tourism, bad for the narrative. But the staff knew. Dr. Post sometimes stood alone in the hall after hours, watching the diamond catch even emergency lighting, its depths shifting. "What are you?" he whispered once. The stone said nothing. But in the silence, he felt it. A presence. A weight. Science says diamonds are forever. But forever is a long time to carry grief. What if curses aren't supernatural? What if they're memory? Crystallized trauma, pain impressed onto matter itself. What if the Hope diamond isn't cursed by gods or demons, but by us, our greed, our hunger, our need to possess beauty regardless of cost? The diamond turns slowly in its case. Waiting, still patient, still blue. How do you break a curse that lives inside us? Let's talk about blame. Not supernatural blame, not angry gods or karmic justice, or mystical forces beyond human comprehension. Let's talk about the uncomfortable truth that historians and gemologists avoid. The truth no one wants to admit because it indexes us all. The Hope Diamond never killed anyone. People killed themselves. Through greed, through obsession, through the human flaw of believing ownership equals happiness. That possessing beauty is the same as experiencing it, that objects can fill the hollow spaces where love and meaning should live. Jean-Baptiste Tavernier didn't die because he stole a sacred stone. He died because he couldn't stop hunting for treasure, couldn't retire peacefully, had to keep pushing into danger, because acquisition was the only thing that made him feel alive. Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette didn't die because of a diamond. They died because they were disconnected from their people's suffering until revolution became inevitable. The stone was just there, another symbol of obscene wealth that made bloodshed feel unavoidable. Evelyn Walsh McLean didn't lose her children because of a curse. She lost them to the chaos of living, to random violence, to the statistical reality that tragedy visits everyone eventually, rich and poor alike. But the diamond was there, every time. Witness to suffering, silent observer, and we, desperate to find meaning in chaos, we made it the villain. Because it's easier, isn't it? Easier to blame a stone than to confront systems of greed and violence. Easier to believe in curses than admit human cruelty needs no supernatural explanation. Easier to say, I would never own that diamond, than examine our own complicity in exploitation and theft. The Hope Diamond was stolen from India. That's not superstition. That's documented fact. Taken from a religious statue, removed from a culture that gave it sacred meaning, smuggled across oceans, reshaped, renamed, stripped of context, and turned into a commodity. That's the real curse. Not punishment, but colonial violence. Western powers are treating sacred objects as resources to extract and exploit. Every owner participated in that theft, continuing it, benefiting from it, wearing stolen heritage and calling it luxury, never asking who was harmed. The workers in Color Mine knew. They understood what was being taken. They watched with pity because they recognized the trap. You cannot build happiness on stolen foundations. You cannot wear sacred pain and expect blessings. But we tried. For 300 years we tried. We cut the stone down, changed its shape, gave it new names, passed it between emperors, heiresses, and museums, insisting ownership in raced violence. The Smithsonian received it in 1958. They displayed it, wrote plaques, mentioned the curse dismissively. They never mentioned returning it. Because museums are built on stolen things. The British Museum, the Louvre, the Met. Their collections are filled with objects taken from colonized peoples who lacked the power to refuse. The Hope Diamond is called an American treasure, but it's not American. It's Indian. Or it belongs to no one, sacred to a goddess whose story was erased. So what is the curse? Maybe it's this: the stone remembers. Not consciously, but by existing. It was there. It witnessed. And everyone who looks at it confronts, if only subconsciously, how it came to be here. The tragedy isn't supernatural. It's historical. It's ongoing. Evelyn Walsh McLean understood this. The diamond was proof of complicity, of participation in violent systems. She wore it like penance. Some of us do the same with our lives. We accumulate comfort built on injustice and tell ourselves it's fine. Will we wear complicity like jewelry, beautiful and cold? That's why people can't look away. They're looking at themselves. The stone doesn't judge. It simply is blue, beautiful, and stolen. And we keep displaying it. That's the real curse. Not what the diamond does to us, but what we do to ourselves by keeping it. Here's a theory that will make scientists uncomfortable. What if the stone is aware? Not conscious like humans. Not thinking. Not planning, not intending harm. But aware in the way quantum physics admits matter can be aware, influenced by observation, changed by attention, responsive to interaction in ways classical physics says shouldn't be possible. The Hope Diamond has been observed by millions, handled by dozens, worn by kings and heiresses, cut, recut, measured, photographed, analyzed. And every observation changes the observer. That's basic psychology. But what if it works both ways? What if everyone who looked at the stone, who wanted it, who obsessed over it, left something behind? Not a curse, an impression. The way photographs trap light. The way water remembers stones resting in it for years. The way places of extreme trauma feel heavy, not haunted, but charged by accumulated emotional weight. Diamonds are exceptional at recording information. That's physics, not mysticism. Their crystalline structure is so stable that it can store data. Researchers have encoded books into diamond matrices designed to outlast any digital medium. What if the Hope Diamond has been recording all along? Every touch, every gaze, every whispered wish, and every owner's fear and desperate hope that this beautiful thing might save them, might fill the emptiness inside, might prove they mattered. It has absorbed centuries of longing. Tavernier's hunger for one final triumph. Louis XIV's certainty that beauty belonged to him. Marie Antoinette's disbelief as her world collapsed. Evelyn Walsh McLean's grief as her children died. All of it is encoded in carbon, stored between atoms, preserved in a structure stable enough to outlast civilization. The stone remembers. And when people stand before it now, whispering, "I wish it were mine," maybe they're not just looking. Maybe something is looking back. Not malicious. Not intentional. Just present. There are reports, unverified, dismissed, of people touching the diamond with bare hands. Preparators, security staff, curators during delicate procedures. They describe the same sensation. Cold, colder than physics explains, cold that settles into the bone. And a feeling of falling, not physical, but psychological, as if certainty disappears beneath your feet. One gemologist called it drowning in blue. It pulls you in, he said. Like deep water that's solid and aware. You feel company. All the others who held it before you. He never touched it again. Transferred departments. Now works with fossils. Things that are unquestionably dead. What if the curse is real, but misunderstood? Not divine punishment. Not karma. Not the supernatural. But entanglement. Particles that interact remain connected across distance. What if human consciousness can entangle with objects infused with intense emotion and desire? What if everyone who ever wanted the Hope Diamond is still connected to it? Fragments reaching toward that blue fire. Longing layered on longing, creating a pressure future owners step into without knowing. You don't own the stone. You join it. The diamond rotates in its case. 45 carats, 9 grams, less than 2 nickels, but it weighs tons. The weight of every life it witnessed. Every dream pressed into it. Every story it outlived. Stand before it long enough, and you feel it. Not with senses, but with whatever part of us reaches beyond skin. The Hope Diamond isn't beautiful despite its history. It's beautiful because of it. We're drawn to weight, to significance, to objects that carry stories heavier than themselves. But permanence isn't survival. The stone endures. Its owners don't. Diamonds are forever. We aren't. And the stone remains, blue, silent, carrying what we gave it. Maybe that's the horror. Not that objects curse us, but that we pour ourselves into them. The Hope Diamond is a mirror, still turning, still catching light, still waiting. What if the only way to break the curse is to stop looking? The Hope Diamond will outlive everything. Your children. Your children's children. The nation you live in. The language you speak. Long after the last human has drawn their last breath, the stone will remain, locked in its perfect crystalline structure, waiting for what? We stand in the museum and look at it through reinforced glass. We read the placard. We hear about the curse in sanitized museum language. Legends suggest that the owners of the Hope Diamond experienced misfortune. Misfortune. Such a gentle word for torn bodies and severed heads, for children crushed and daughters poisoned. Such a careful euphemism for 300 years of trauma. The museum won't call it what it is. Won't admit that the stone is evidence of colonial violence, of theft so profound it echoes through generations. Won't acknowledge that every person who thinks, beautiful, without thinking, stolen, participates in the erasure of that violence. We are all complicit. Not in the original theft. We weren't there when Tavernier pried it from the goddess's brow. But in the ongoing theft. The continued insistence that it belongs here, in America in this case. The stone has no voice. Can't speak for itself, can't demand justice. So we project onto it. We make it a villain or a victim, depending on what narrative we need. But what if we're asking the wrong questions? Not, is the curse real? But, what does it mean that we need it to be? Not, who does it belong to? But, what would belonging even mean for something that existed millions of years before humans? The Hope Diamond sits in its case, rotating. Thousands of people pass through every day. They take photographs. Forbidden, but they do it anyway, trying to capture something uncapturable. The photographs never look right. The blue is always wrong, the depth flattened, the context erased. Just a blue stone divorced from the blood that bought it and the tears that wet it. Some visitors cry. The guards have learned to recognize it, the way certain people suddenly find themselves weeping. They'll blink, confused, wipe their eyes. I don't know what happened, they say. I just suddenly felt so sad. The guards say nothing. They know the stone does something to people, something that bypasses rational thought and speaks directly to whatever part of us recognizes grief. Beauty built on pain is not beautiful, is monstrous, is a lie we tell ourselves to justify the unjustifiable. The Hope Diamond is not a treasure, it's a tombstone. A memorial to human greed and cruelty, to our endless capacity for violence in pursuit of things we don't need. And we've put it in a museum, made it educational, made it family-friendly, stripped it of its horror and packaged it as heritage. That's the final violence. We've taken something that should inspire shame and turned it into a tourist attraction. We've made suffering into entertainment. We've made trauma into profit. The stone remembers. Every hand that touched it. Every eye that wanted it. Every heart that broke while wearing it. Because that's the real curse, isn't it? Not that the stone brings tragedy, but that we can't imagine giving it up. Can't conceive of acknowledging theft by making restitution. We'd rather keep it and suffer than return it and heal. That's not the stone's fault. That's ours. The Hope Diamond will be here long after we're gone. After the museum crumbles. After America falls. It will still be blue. Still be beautiful. Still be stolen. But we're not there yet. We're still here, still looking, still wanting. Still pressing our faces against the glass and whispering, "I wish it was mine." Still cursing ourselves. Still refusing to see what it really is, a mirror. Showing us exactly what we are. Beautiful and terrible. Hungry and cruel. Unable to let go. The Hope Diamond rotates in its case. Blue fire catching the light. Eternal. The patient. Silent. Still waiting for someone to ask. What would it take for us to set it free?